13 hours from right now, people throughout the state of Iowa will finally go to local areas, warm buildings, obviously, to do some caucusing. There's something like 1,600 caucus sites across the great state of Iowa, where after all the door knocking and all the handshaking and all of the backslapping, it all comes down to turnout. And ultimately, it comes down to the weather, because it is freezing. Right now, the air temperature here in Des Moines, where I'm sitting at the River Center, right there at the Des Moines River and the Raccoon River, it is 14 degrees below zero. That's not the wind chill. The wind chill is 32 degrees below zero. And to show you how cold it is, Ari, one of the producers on our show, put his stocking cap outside 1 hour ago, right? This is Ari's hat. It's frozen solid. But what is more remarkable than that is, did you realize in 1 hour you can freeze a banana? This thing is hard as a... Look at that. It's hard as a rock. I have the strength of 10 men. Anyway, it just goes to show you, it's all about the weather here in Iowa. And if people are going to brave the cold, they've got to also brave the fact that there are a lot of streets still not open. But Lawrence, a lot of people were able to show up where you are at Lucky's in Cedar Rapids, to the east of where I am.
That's exactly right. Everybody's talking about the weather, but it didn't stop these folks from getting up for breakfast with friends. Are y'all going to show up tonight? Yeah! All right. So, again, they said, listen, we're used to weather. They want their voice to be heard. Stuff is not going right with the country right now. They're not going to let, and as one lady told me today, if she has to walk to the polling location, she will walk.
They are committed, aren't they, Lawrence? Lawrence, this morning when we came in, I had to tell Brian it's not pronounced Des Moines.
Right, no.
Des Moines.
Right. I did not know. I did not know.
He did know.
Phonetically.
He did know. We were joking.
All right, so let's talk about what a caucus actually is, and look behind us. This is our cover page, and now let's open up and really open with a definition, Ainsley.
All right, the definition of a caucus. It's a meeting at which local members of a political party register their preference among candidates running for office or select delegates to attend a convention.
It is a noun. But caucusing is a verb. Right? Am I correct?
All right, tell us what a caucus actually is.
This is an example of people listening back and forth as torsos. So one guy will come in, or a woman will come in and will say, hey, vote for Vivek Ramaswamy, and here's what you do. And then they'll say, vote for Ron DeSantis, and here's why. And what I think is so interesting is you could register that day and decide, I'm going to be a Republican, vote on that caucus, it's okay. You're talking about 1,700 different sites, and we're talking about schools, community centers, churches, gyms, whatever you need. Yep. They want just going to have this site. It's going to be known locally, and they got to come out and do it. You know what I thought was also interesting? Ted Cruz during his day would tell people, don't let them convince you to vote for someone else. They would have little signs that said, don't talk to me.
Because that person was not going to change their mind.
Don't want to be convinced.
So it's a closed meeting. It's a group of people from the same political party. The meeting is called to order, and the participants are invited to speak in support of their candidate. So that's all the public part, right, Brian?
Right.
The open discussion.
So let's move on and give you a little bit more information about it. For example, this is the urging and the debating, and this is where you get behind your candidate.
The caucus goers, they share their thoughts, they ask questions, and they engage in discussions with supporters of different candidates. And then the ballots are casted, right?
Right. So what's interesting is this is an open process. You could come in that day and register as a Republican and vote. But when it comes to the voting, that's a secret ballot. Yeah. That's going to be handed to the precincts, and that's going to be quiet.
Because everything else is public up until this point, and then this is the private part. Once the speeches wrap up, participants fill out this secret ballots. The ballots are counted, and the process leading up to it, like we said, is very public, but this is the private part.
All right, we know what I think is pretty cool, too. Unlike the Democrats who kept screwing up the Iowa caucuses, so you do what every American shouldn't do, you quit. That's what Joe Biden insisted on. The Republicans say we're organized, we're ready to go. We'll count these ballots. We'll even have an answer tonight. Yeah. So how great would that be to actually get the result of an election in real time. We're talking about just 150,000 people, considered a great turnout, and we have 100,000 new Republicans from 2016.
So the votes are given directly to the Iowa Republican Party, and then the state results are tabulated. And in Iowa, each candidate receives a share of the state's 40 delegates in proportion to their share of votes. So we will know tonight. So tomorrow morning when we're on, we'll know who won.
Yeah, got 40 delegates at stake, but more important, it's momentum. Momentum knowing that in 8 days, they're in action again in New Hampshire. So, guys, that's a little about what the mechanics of the caucus are going to be. And we're really not going to do anything quite like that. I think Nevada has a caucus opportunity, but there's also a primary there, too.
Well, you know what's interesting, too, Brian? You have to show up on time, and you can't leave until the end of the night.
Right. A lot of people are like, yeah, I don't think so. There used to be an excuse in the 70s because Happy Days was on. All right, was that? Oh, no, that was Tuesdays. But not anymore. That is not a good excuse. Although now you have 2 playoff games tonight.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of the problems. And keep in mind, today is Martin Luther King Day. It's a big holiday as well. A lot of people have the day off. But here's the thing about, and I love the way you guys set up how the caucus works. I kind of like the Democrat caucuses better when they used to do them. They're not doing them this year. And that is where everybody would go in a room and rather than cast votes, you would actually just stand in the corner of the person you liked. And if one candidate didn't get 15%, was not deemed viable, then the people would give a speech and try to get you to support one of the other people. But what's interesting is in the last couple of, here at the 11th hour, you've got Marco Rubio of the great state of Florida. He, out of nowhere yesterday, surprised everybody and endorsed Donald Trump. Of course, that's got to come as a slap in the face to Ron DeSantis, who's the governor of the great state of Florida. And then you got Larry Hogan. He has announced that some people thought he was going to run for president. Now, out of nowhere, he's supporting Nikki Haley. And then you've also got Governor Burgum yesterday endorsed Donald Trump. And one other thing of interest, and this goes to the point about how treacherous the weather is. And Lawrence can talk. I saw Lawrence last night, and he had to drive over to Cedar Rapids. He can talk a little bit about the roads condition. But Congresswoman Marionette Miller Meek, who's been on our program many, many times, she was going to an event for Nikki Haley on Saturday. She's just in the car going to the campaign event. She was rear-ended by a semi-trailer. Thank God Almighty she's okay. She missed the event, but it just goes to show you, Lawrence, how treacherous it is getting to the events. And that's one of the things. People, a month ago, people said, yeah, I'm going to caucus. But then again, it's 15 degrees below zero, and there's a foot of snow in front of the house.
It's so true. And as we were driving across Iowa yesterday, we saw the road lined up on the side with semi-trucks that had been the crashes there. But I want to go back to the endorsements, because I think every candidate in this race has their own merit, right, and what they were able to do on the ground, and then they have their secret weapons on the ground. And I don't think that the Marco Rubio endorsement was just a random event. There was definitely a shot at Ron DeSantis. As you know, guys, Donald Trump pretty much has the entire Republican Florida delegation supporting him on a federal level. Day to day, Ron DeSantis is working with the state legislators, but people on a national level know these national figures, and they have been invited to get people out in caucus for Donald Trump. Kim Reynolds is going to be Ron DeSantis's secret weapon when he's at the caucus, having people show up for that. And then Nikki Haley, although Larry Hogan is a former governor, he has some support. A lot of people in Iowa really don't know him, though. She's going to be banking on AFP, Americans for Prosperity, and they really have that ground game, those door knockers, but they also have a plan for the caucus on how they plan on working the room. So each candidate, and by the way, Vivek Ramaswamy is like, look, I'm not an insider in. He has a lot of the social media influencers on the ground to rally the young people, which he says is going to give him a big upset, guys.
Yeah, I mean, Nikki Haley, it looks like, according to the latest poll, the NBC Des Moines Register Mediacom Iowa poll, Nikki Haley is narrowly edging past Ron DeSantis. So it looks like she could be in second place. He would be in third. different. But the most enthusiasm goes to Trump. Voters say they're so enthusiastic to vote for him that they're willing to go out in the cold weather. The National Weather Service says the wind chill could cause frostbite on exposed skin in as little as 10 minutes. And then when you look at the approval rating for Joe Biden, Brian, not good at this point.
Yeah, in any way. So ABC did a poll, and they said, how's Joe Biden doing? I can't believe this number. 33% say he's doing a good job. 33%. Only 57% of Democrats think he's doing a good job. They are basically begging him to drop out.
That's the lowest for any president in 15 years.
Yeah, I can't believe that someone would even be lower. How about this? What economy do you like better, Biden or Trump? 49% of the country like Trump. 21% say Biden. Now, get this. Only 28% think he has the mental sharpness for another term. Not only does he have the controversial things about the border falling apart, believe it or not, the next generation doesn't think he should be supporting Israel. But now you have people that have picked up what we've been seeing for the last 2 years. Among the Democrats, among the general population, I should say, 28% thinks he can't do the job.
Dagger.
And also, he's bringing out his party of defenders. Yesterday, he had Governor Pritzker and Governor Tim Walz selling him, but not many people are buying him because he can't overcome the age situation that he's dealing with. Not that he's 80, but it's how he's acting, and he's invisible. No press conferences, no interviews, no availability, on vacation the whole time, multiple hot spots.
Well, you know what, Brian? In talking to my family, and most of the Duceys live in Iowa, it seems like the number one problem they've got with Joe Biden, if they got a problem with Joe Biden, it's just stuff he's done. For the most part, so many of my family members are really terrified about what is going on the southern border. Obviously, number one issue is the economy, but there's a new CBS poll that came out, and what it does is it looks at what my family and what other families are interested in, ultimately, who can win the election. And on both sides, I've got Democrats and Republicans in my family. When it comes to who can beat Joe Biden, last week we said that Nikki Haley could beat Joe Biden by 17 points. The new CBS poll shows that she would beat Joe Biden by 8. Donald Trump would beat Joe Biden by 2, and Ron DeSantis would beat Joe Biden by 3. So given what he has done as president, it looks like any of these top 3 Republicans could still win if they make it to the general election.
Yeah, it's very close. Right now, Nikki Haley does better with women and independents and getting crossover Democrats. That's what provides her more fuel in the general. But the question is, can she get there?
Trump's doing better with Christians, registered Republicans, first-time caucus goers, and likely caucus goers without a college degree. Now, Lawrence, you're going to talk to some of the folks. What are they saying? They're all going to show up despite the weather?
They're saying that the weather is not going to stop them. And to your point, Ainsley, Donald Trump struggled with the evangelicals in the last time there was an Iowa caucus. So to see him be able to get those folks, that's a big win for him. But let's talk about the president. Oh, you got a cute dog. That's such a cute dog. Look at that dog. It's a cute dog, right? So, ma'am, I got to ask you, what do you think about the current president and how he's handling the economy, the border, everything that's happening in our country right now?
I didn't know we had a president right now.
Right.
And secondly, what's being handled is not being handled. Let's put it that way. The border, I fear so for my grandchildren and my children as far as the years go by. What's going to happen to the United States? It's going to fall apart.
It's such a good point. So this is caucus day. Who do you plan on caucusing for?
Trump.
Trump. Why Trump?
Trump, before he stood by what he said he would do. Unfortunately, people tried to stop him from doing what he said he was going to do. But, I'm a great believer in what he says he will fulfill. He will go forward with, if he's allowed to. Hopefully they will not try to stop him like they did before.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate it. I want y'all to hear from these Nikki Haley folks, because I was at the bar yesterday getting some food in my stomach, and I met y'all. And y'all support Nikki Haley. And the question is, why?
Because we're concerned about electability. Electability is the key. We want to win the Oval and make a change in the country.
What about you, sir? Why are you supporting Nikki Haley?
She's awesome. She's prepared. She can win. She's going to do great. She is conservative, and she can take that young, conservative, energetic message all across the country and unite us and potentially win the popular vote. She is the most prepared, ready-to-go candidate day one.
Thank you so much, sir. One last person I want to talk to. You came through the door, and you just jumped in my arms, literally. Literally, you slipped, but I had you. So tell me, who do you plan on caucusing today for, and why are you supporting them?
I'm actually undecided. We've been talking with these guys that we just don't know. We're so concerned. I mean, we've thought DeSantis, almost as good looking as like Bill Hemmer, as classy as Dana, almost the type of person you want to have a beer with, like Greg Gutfeld. But then I listen to Vivek. He's so compelling. He's so articulate. And all I think to myself is, we've got to do something, because the border, we're handling it like a third world country. It is a colossal embarrassment. If we were to ask President Biden what's more embarrassing, is it the border, it's just Hunter Biden? I don't know. But
it's a lot of scandals.
Yeah, it's just a lot. So we're mandated to do something.
But then you listen to a guy like Vivek, and I'm like, everything he says is amazing and brilliant, and then I'm like, I want him. But then it goes back to like, should we just be on the winning team for Trump? And you don't know. You don't know.
Undecided, still on caucus day. It's a great crowd here, right? Yeah. It's good to be in Iowa. All right. I'll send it back to you guys in New York, and then I'm sure Steve is holding it down at the headquarters in Iowa.
Yeah, Lawrence, we've got everybody that they were talking about. Governor Ron DeSantis, who I understand is as handsome as Bill Hemmer, is going to be joining us. Vivek Ramaswamy and his wife will be with us this hour. And coming up in about an hour from right now, Nikki Haley, who here in Iowa has picked up so much buzz over the last 2 weeks, she will be stopping by as well.
Great job, guys.
And meanwhile, our special coverage on Fox starts at 10 o'clock Eastern with Brett and Martha. They're going to be here live from the River Center in downtown Des Moines. Ainsley?
What time do those results come in, do we think?
Probably about that time.
Yeah.
About 10? Okay.
Because 10 is 9, and the caucuses kick off at 7 o'clock local time. They go about an hour. Then by the end of another hour, they should have a lot of the counting done.
And I know Brett and Martha want it wrapped up quick so they can get back to New York, because they've been away a long time. So let's get that done quick. Come on, Iowa. Don't let us down.
They live for this. This is what they do.
It is.
I'm sorry. You're not going to get much sleep tonight either. Brian was just showing me his information. He got 3 hours last night. So
right. Yeah.
You'll be up late
My
tonight,
ring
too.
told on me.
Right.
All right.
All right. Great job, guys. Thanks for going to Iowa. I'm sorry it's so cold, but I know y'all are enjoying all the action. All right. Still ahead, protesters outside the White House after the U.S. carried out retaliatory strikes on Houthi rebels in Yemen over the weekend. Peter Doocy is here on that next.
Yeah, they're actually going for the Houthis in this fight. And Gall and the family. See the hilarious moment? One young Packers fan. Listen to this. Oh, look at this. Protesters outside the White House over the weekend. This after the U.S. carried out retaliatory strikes, circle retaliatory on your program there, on Houthi rebels in Yemen over the weekend.
Well, President Biden not at home. He spent the weekend on another vacation, this time at Camp David. But Peter Doocy is live at the White House right now with the latest. Good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning. And on Saturday night, the Secret Service sized up that crowd, and they determined that White House staff and reporters who usually are on the North Lawn were not safe standing right where we are standing, behind an iron fence and a line that has police on the outside and on the inside. To listen to this group, they were chanting things like, from the river to the sea, and they were screaming F Joe Biden as they tried to topple a temporary security fence. Authorities tried to keep this crew in Lafayette Park off the actual fence line to prevent the kind of property damage that happened last time when bloody handprints were smeared all over the fence. They couldn't get it off for days. It does appear there is some blood red spray paint on some of the Jersey barrier in the park, but other damage appears limited. Next up, some administration staff and federal workers are apparently hoping to walk out on their posts tomorrow to protest U.S. support for Israel. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, says Any government worker who walks off the job to protest U.S. support for our ally Israel is ignoring their responsibility and abusing the trust of taxpayers. They deserve to be fired. President Biden is going to wake up today at Camp David in Maryland before a service event in Philadelphia. Then he is going to head on back here. We haven't heard from him about this or anything since Saturday. Back to you.
Peter, this is unbelievable. I mean, number one, see these people actually protest the same place where they cheered the death of bin Laden. They're now protesting our retaliatory strikes against the Houthi rebels who have brought the Red Sea transportation to a crawl, costing us billions of dollars, upping the price of oil. They're protesting our hits on them. Who are these people?
Well, Brian, they made a strategic mistake, right? Because they were out there, it's cold, all this effort, all the noise. The president wasn't even home. If they wanted to try to get within an earshot, they had to go to like the woods of Maryland where Camp David is. But this was a big thing. The Secret Service seems like they have figured out how to corral the anti-Israel, anti-strikes on Houthi crowd because they do not want to have bloody red handprints all over the White House again. Well, it seems like that was something that they realize is a problem.
Peter, I don't know if you can see this, but the folks at home can. This is the New York Post, 100 days in hell. Just a reminder, it's been 100 days since those hostages were taken. And these three faces, Hamas hostage video, it says is a grim reminder of why Israel must prevail. They released a hostage video. These are three of the people that were in it, including this young lady who was taken from the music festival.
And the Houthis attack are in sympathy with Hamas.
Right, exactly.
And so far we've seen reports that now that we are at 100 days, President Biden is growing frustrated with Netanyahu at the way that things are going in Gaza, that the war has not been wound down to the satisfaction of folks here in the West Wing. But publicly, the U.S. is still very supportive of Israel. And so these staffers that are going to walk off the job, the interns who have written a letter to the president saying that they know what U.S. policy should be better than the president, it doesn't appear that they're going to get the public reversal from the president that they want.
But isn't it a felony to leave your job? As a federal worker, you can't strike. You can't go protest. I mean, well, you should be fired.
You know what the workaround was last time that a group of people who said that they were White House staff went out to the front, the other side of the fence? They just all had their faces covered. And so how are you going to fire them? You can't see who it is.
What happens today there? Because it is MLK Day. Will there be a press conference today? Will we hear from Joe Biden about this?
No, it's a federal holiday in Washington, D.C., so pretty much nothing is going to happen here.
Unbelievable. Soon we're going to be in election mode or re-election mode. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
You know, it's hard enough winning over the other party, but when you can't win over your own staff, I think you hired the wrong staff.
All right, let's hand it over to Carly. She has some more headlines.
Yeah, guys, that's what was going on with President Biden. There's also a lot going on with former President Donald Trump and a protester interrupting him during his campaign event in Iowa last night, leading to this exchange. Check it out.
3 rallies.
You're taking millions.
Thank you, darling. Thank you. Thank you. That's all right. Go home to mommy. Your mommy's waiting.
Well, today here in Iowa, the high-stakes caucus is kicking off with Republican candidates pushing to make crucial headway against the frontrunner Donald Trump right now, including our next guest who has visited all 99 counties in the state. I'm not going to ask him for his favorite, but he's got one probably ahead of today's hurdle. And join us right now on this very busy day here in Iowa, the governor of the great state of Florida, Ron DeSantis. Governor, good morning to you.
Well, one thing we did do is they have in Iowa the actual baseball field that was used on Field of Dreams.
Right.
So you can go so we did an event there over the summer. You got the corn for the outfield fence. I had all my kids there running the bases and doing everything. So, that's just something that I saw as a kid when that movie came out. And then to be there, you're there. And, you actually can rent the Kevin Costner house.
I know.
People can stay there. So it's a pretty neat thing.
Well, and one of the lines from that, Governor, is Shoeless Joe Jackson comes out and says, "Is this heaven?" And Kevin Costner says, "No, it's Iowa." Somebody somebody coming out today would go, is this heaven? And they'll go, no, this is the North Pole.
Well, that's exactly right. My son, when we first started showing him the movie, he was with the Corps and we're playing baseball, and he said, Daddy, is this heaven? I said, no, son, it's Iowa. Now I asked him, I said, Mason, is this heaven? He's like, no, Dad, it's Iowa, and it's cold, so they know.
It is, and that's a problem. Because, and I know you've worked 4 months, you've got the best ground game in Iowa, without a doubt. You've got all these caucus camp captains, you've got people who are lined up to speak on your behalf. And then Mother Nature throws you a wrench.
Well, that's the thing. When you have the organization, we've worked to build support. Our organization knows all these people. I mean, you're talking about tens of thousands of people over the course of the 6 months that are committed, ready to go. Then there's others that are very likely to go. So if people need help, we'll spring into action and we'll be there. But a caucus, even without the weather, is a process. It's not the same as just filling out a ballot and doing it. So we recognize that from the beginning. It does require a certain amount of motivation. And I think the good thing is our folks are very motivated and they kind of view the weather as something like, you know what, we're going to do it. But I do think overall it will affect the caucus. I mean, there was 186,000 people in 2016. A lot of people thought it would be less this year anyways. But then I think with the weather, it likely will be less than that.
And so for caucus goers who might be, one of my aunts might be 75, 80 years old, you've got the structure so that your people will drive that person to the caucus location. They don't have to worry about being out on a gravel road.
And families can bring kids. Yeah. There's kids taken care of while they're caucusing. All that stuff is ready to go.
Okay. One of the things I've heard from people here in Iowa, in fact, I think it's universal. They'll go, because I'll say, I ask every person, so who do you like? And they go, well, I like Trump. But, and then then they explain it. And you probably heard the same thing during your tour of all 99 counties.
Yeah, I mean, look, there'll be people that come to our events. They know Trump, and they liked a lot of his policies. I go make the case, and when they hear from us, a lot of times they come on board with us. And so that's why we went to all these counties. That's why I think we planted a lot of good seeds. And I said from the beginning when we were doing this, I'm like, this comes to fruition really on caucus night, because people will go there. They may be conflicted. We'll have someone give a speech, and they'll say, you know what? The governor came. He came to my county, or I remember him showing up, and that's where it all matters. And so I think we did it right, and we worked harder than anybody to be able to do this. And the thing is, these folks here in Iowa, I mean, they're good, God-fearing, hardworking people. They're patriotic. They want to see this country turned around, and they're very passionate about the country's going in the wrong direction, and let's reverse this trend.
Right. As we heard from Lawrence at the diner a couple of minutes ago, there are still a lot of people who are undecided, and they're waiting to hear from you guys today, and thank you very much for being on our show, but also your surrogates at all these events as well. It's very important because they could make or break a campaign.
You have people it's a process. You'll have people at these caucus sites that will be lobbying for votes. And so we've obviously organized all the sites. We have over 1,700 precinct captains that are there. And so you think if all of them end up flipping 3 or 4 votes at each, then that starts to be real significant. And we have that infrastructure in place. Obviously, Trump is a known commodity. Sure. I haven't seen that from any other candidate.
I understand your campaign has, and you've heard from Republicans who have publicly endorsed Donald Trump. And they go, yeah, I did that, but I'm going to vote for you.
Well, the thing is I think he puts a lot of pressure on these guys to do. It's like
it's politics.
You got to endorse or else. And so some of them do that because they think it's a path of least resistance. But I think the reality is I'm endorsed by Governor Reynolds here, who's done a fantastic job. Trump came in yesterday to Iowa and he started attacking Governor Reynolds. And here's the thing, even some of his strongest supporters, they appreciate what Governor Reynolds did. And so I think it's
very popular.
It's just how do you do it? Like for me, it's like we're all Republicans. I want all Republicans to do well. There's a Republican governor that's endorsed another candidate, but they're doing well. I'm not going to trash them. I'm glad that they're doing it. I think every Republican should look at Governor Reynolds and say, you know what? Sure. She's getting the job done. And I think with Trump, that's not how he sees it. It's she didn't endorse him, so then he trashes her. But you can't build a movement like that. I mean, you've got to have, a strong tent, and you got to have anyone that's pulling in the right direction, they need to be supported. So I'm glad that she's supporting me, and I think it's going to make a difference. I mean, you talk about these speeches at the caucus sites. You know, Governor Reynolds has said that I'm one of the most effective leaders she's ever seen, and that's going to matter for these folks.
She loves what you've done in Florida. Let me ask you about this. Well, we know that the former president threw Vivek under the bus as well when he was hitting her as well. What does tonight look like? What is a win for Ron DeSantis?
Look, I always like being the underdog. I mean, that's been true.
Okay, you're the underdog.
Races,
you're the underdog.
So I think we've done it right here. I think you're going to see that tonight. I think people are going to say, you know what, you know, this guy did a good job. And I've been up against a lot. I mean, I've had more money spent against me than Biden and Trump combined. I mean, almost $50 million now. You know, obviously we knew media would be against us. So we've had a lot of things to contend with, and we just kept our head down. We showed up. We made the case. And I think you're going to see good results from there.
You're trying to get out the vote. I'll give you 20 seconds. Look right at that camera. Tell the people of Iowa why they should vote for you.
Well, you know, Donald Trump's running for his issues. Nikki Haley's running for the donors' issues. I'm running for your issues, your family's issues, and solely to turn this country around. The only one that's delivered on 100% of his promises, and I'm the only one running who has beaten the Democrats and the left time and time again. We need to win again as Republicans. That's how you turn this country around.
All right. Governor DeSantis, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
I know you've got 300 places to go. Thank you very much. All right, so he is confident, but he's the underdog, Lawrence and Ainsley and Brian.
Yeah, Lawrence?
Yeah, you know, I think it's interesting. And, you know, to be fair to the governor, he has a story to tell. There's a lot of people moving to Florida. He got record, you know, tax cuts and turned his state around and got a supermajority. But I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of Donald Trump. And he just exhibited it in that interview when he said that Donald Trump can't build the movement this way. Donald Trump already has a movement. He's not trying to build the movement. The other candidates are. And I think that's going to be the problem on caucus day today, is that how do you rally these people to support you when you have the big elephant in the room that have these people that are in such support of him and they make their voices known, guys?
You know, I think he's very likable within the Republican Party. Will he be the guy? Probably not. It's probably going to be Donald Trump. I think people say he's young. He has military experience. We saw what he did down in Florida. And we know he could be president eventually. I think the party right now is just behind Donald Trump. We're seeing that in the polls. He's winning by like 30 points in Iowa right now. So I think Ron DeSantis, his goal is to come in second place. Nikki Haley's goal is to come in second place in Iowa. But he says, and he said it over and over in a lot of interviews, he likes to be the underdog. He likes for people to have lower expectations of him because he tends to do better than people expect.
He's never lost an election. They said that 30% would be great for him. And then he says for those people who think he's going to quit tonight if he does poorly, he's going to South Carolina. Then he's bouncing back to New Hampshire, where he's not supposed to do well. He's going to South Carolina after. The one thing I'm going to say about Ron DeSantis, which is indisputable, number one, going to all these counties, working extremely hard. He put his effort. And number two is the debates. If you watch him in the big debate, he did well. If you watch him the one-on-one with Nikki Haley, did well. And if you watch him with Governor Gavin Newsom, he did well. He'll take any challenge. So that's pretty much the way he was billed, and he's lived up to that billing.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Brian. The only problem for him, and you're right, he demolished a lot of those candidates in the debate. The person that he really needs to take out wasn't at the debate.
I know.
And so because you didn't get to see that matchup one-on-one, he never got the opportunity to slay the dragon. And so now you see his people, they're only surging after indictments and all of that. So, but it's definitely a fair point that the other candidates he just had a story to tell and a recent one to tell.
Right, and the court cases ended up being jet fuel for the president instead of being limiting for the president. And if you even watch Democrats, they had no idea that this would be the result.
And evangelical is very important in these elections, as we know, especially for the Republican Party. Donald Trump's getting a lot of those evangelicals, and so is DeSantis. It says 22% are choosing DeSantis as their top candidate.
Bob Vanderplatz is the big one, and he won with Ron DeSantis. All right, 13 minutes out before the top of the hour. Lauren, stay there. Carly, you're right over here.
Yes,
tell us what else is happening.
I am. That's
including,
right.
Speaking of court cases.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking a lot about Iowa. Got some news out of Georgia as well. Fulton County DA Fani Willis says race factored into accusations that she had an improper relationship with an attorney she hired to help prosecute former President Trump. Listen here.
You did not tell me as a woman of color, it would not matter what I did. My motive, my talent, my ability, and my character would be constantly attacked.
Now, both are accused of taking vacations using funds from legal fees. Californians spent the most on groceries compared to other states. Interesting stat right there. That's according to a new study by Health Advisor. The average household in the Golden State shells out $297 per week at the grocery store. The average American household spends $270 per week, $27 less than Californians. And Harrison Ford taking home the Career Achievement Award during last night's Critics' Choice Awards. After taking the stage, Ford said he's proud of the industry.
Really happy to be here tonight to see what our business is turning into, and all of the talented people who are getting opportunities that probably would not have existed in early part of my career.
ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਲੋਹੜੀ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਇੱਥੇ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਲੋਹੜੀ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਲੋਹੜੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਨਾ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਪਾਂਸਰਡ ਲੋਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਕੀ ਹੈਪੀ ਬਰਥਡੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੰਕਲ ਜੀ ਹੋ ਤੇਰਾ ਕੌਣ ਵਿਚਾਰਾ ਹੋ ਦੁੱਲਾ ਪੱਟੀ ਵਾਲਾ ਹੋ ਦੁੱਲੇ ਦੀ ਪਿਆਈ ਹੋ ਸੇ ਸ਼ੱਕਰ ਪਾਈ ਹੋ ਕੁੜੀ ਦਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਾਟਾ ਹੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੌਣ ਸਮੇਟੇ ਹੋ पूरा जोश है जी सारे इन्हां दी आइडियाज जेहड़ियां ना रुकनी नहीं हुन यस कम ऑन देखो जी कोई एज बार नहीं है सारे यंग गर्ल्स तो लैके सारी जड़ियां ने लेडीज बुजुर्ग वो भी नाल दे नाल डांस पा रही ने गिद्दा पा रही ने ते एक बार लेडीज बोलो जोर दी बोलो कौन बोलेगा हैप्पी लोहड़ी हैप्पी हैप्पी ला जी देखा भाई करीर साहब
आंधी है लोड़ी जदों ए आंधी है लोड़ी हैप्पी लोहड़ी क्या हाल है sir happy Lodi to you too he's very confident they both are very confident oh ji bete ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੋਹੜੀ ਮੁਬਾਰਕ ਹੋਏ ਜੀ भाई सारे तालियां मारो कम ऑन यस जोर दी तालियां यस कम ऑन भाई रुकना नहीं यस आप जी देख सकते हो कि किस तरह सीनियर्स बड़ा अच्छा ही कट किया है हैप्पी लोहड़ी बच्चे अपने अपने हिसाब नाल छोटे छोटे जो प्रोग्राम फिक्स करके बहुत अच्छा एक निकी जी लोहड़ी मना रहे हैं आ लोहड़ी जी है जिस तरह इंडिया विच नॉर्मली जिस सर्दियों में होती है तो सर्दियों में लोहड़ी का एक लोहड़ी जलाते ने ते एक निग मिलता है वो निग अज इत्थे देखने को मिल गया आ देखो जी अब बच्चा छोटा जा देखो ओ हैप्पी लोहड़ी शाबाश देखो जी है ना निग भाई लोहड़ी का निग सारे नूं मिल रहा कि नहीं मिल रहा आ देखो जी लोहड़ी का सारा सत श्री अकाल जी करो Come on. ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਲੋਹੜੀ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਇੱਥੇ ਚੱਲਦਾ
ਲੋਹੜੀ ਇਸ ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਲੋਹੜੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਨਾ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਪਾਂਸਰਡ ਲੋਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਕੀ
ਪੂਰਾ ਜੋਸ਼ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਅੱਡੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨਾ ਰੁਕਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਯੈਸ ਕਮ ਔਨ देखो जी कोई एज बार नहीं है सारे यंग गर्ल्स तो लैके सियाणी जड़ियां ने लेडीज बुजुर्ग वो भी नाल दे नाल डांस पा रही ने गिद्दा पा रही ने ते एक बार लेडीज बोलो जोर दी बोलो कौन बोलेगा हैप्पी लोहड़ी हैप्पी हैप्पी ला जी देखा भाई आंधी है लोहड़ी जदों ए आंधी है लोहड़ी हैप्पी लोहड़ी क्या हाल है हैप्पी लोहड़ी टू यू टू He's very confident. They both are very confident. और जी बेटे सारे ने लोहड़ी मुबारक हो जी भाई सारे तालियां मारो कम ऑन यस जोर दी तालियां यस कम ऑन
ਨਿਕਲੇਗੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਥੋੜੀ ਨਿਕਲੇਗੀ भाई रुकना नहीं यस आप जी देख सकते हो कि किस तरह सीनियर्स बड़ा अच्छा ही कट किया है हैप्पी लोहड़ी बच्चे अपने अपने हिसाब नाल छोटे छोटे जो प्रोग्राम फिक्स करके बहुत अच्छा एक निੱਘੀ जी लोहड़ी मना रहे हैं आ लोहड़ी जी है जिस तरह इंडिया विच नॉर्मली जिस सर्दियों में होती है तो सर्दियों में लोहड़ी का एक लोहड़ी जलाते ने ते एक निग मिलता है वो निग अज इत्थे देखने को मिल गया आ देखो जी अब बच्चा छोटा जा देखो ओ हैप्पी लोहड़ी शाबाश देखो जी है ना निग भाई लोहड़ी का निग सारिਆਂ ਨੂੰ मिल रहा कि नहीं मिल रहा आ देखो जी लोहड़ी का सारा सत श्री अकाल जी करो Come on.